think we're up to the Dafka on page Samachay.
Right.
The Dafka im nasan mei peros b'matzah kolam afiyah havi matzah shira.
Right.
But aval im nasan Allah mei peros la'achra afiyah lo havi matzah ashira.
Right, and that was the Rephaim that this is what Rephaim was located to. That he held even after the afiyah. It seems from
to take away the time.
He didn't give that reason, but that could explain but you had that trial in the first place. You mentioned why not. So it would be that it would seem that Reb Chaim's position would be in line with what you were saying. That's why I wanted to find out.
Anyway, he's telling the halacha that May Paris after Alfiyah is not a problem. Ayin Basagos arrive at Peri Lavalachay, Dahatim Sapta, Kan Peri Beis Lachi Gimel Mairi, Shetivla Misha Nefis, that he put the spices on after it was baked, and I don't know what the Tosefta says, but the Ayin Pri Chodesh Siman Tuftan Hesi Penvav Hasbro Lazah, why it makes a difference before or after. Because of Shekain Mucha B'tos of Sachim Dafim Alta Amalal Di Ramasko Abo, that there's a difference between before and after. Ayin Magan Avram Siman Tuf Samachal Tzif Pan Zayin, the matzah shruya, if you take a matzah and you soak it in water, after yotzim, well, because we said matzah shruya is kosher, dafka im shru b'mayim. He said that's only if you soaked it in water of a low b'yayin. So l'chorah, it's a problem, because l'chorah, it's already, you just soaked it, but it was already a matzah, and this l'chorah, the yayin is coming afterwards. So what's the problem if you soaked it in wine? It's no longer a matzah ashira, because of the chayin mashma. So anyway, who says this? The Magen Avraham says this, and he says the kasab that his source is the kain mashma milashon arif or rama v'harash. L'emes milashon arif kan that yilafon bezi api arif umay rush shekasu the zaken chola. They say a person is old and it's hard for him to chew matzah, or it's a chola. It says merachim imayim. You could soak it in water to make it soft and more digestible and chewable. Mashma kain. It's still the language of the Rif and the Rush is much like that, because it says you should be merachlik b'mayim, and they stress with mayim. Why can't you be merachlik with any liquid than with May Paris? So since they say mayim, it's mashma dafka mayim, with not May Paris. He says he doesn't know what the mashmos is on the Rambam, because it says that the Magen Avraham said it's mashma like that in the Rif and the Rush and the Rambam. He says I know what he means by Rif and the Rush, because they stress water. He says I don't know how it's mashma in the Rambam, and the Rambam doesn't stress water over there, so how does he know the Rambam is mashma on water? And he says the Magen Avraham says the reason is because you soak it in yayin, you're mevatel the tam. He says any yudem and all. Where does he get to say that reason? The zahabi matzah shira. And he says this is yayin is just the matzah shira. L'shitas el the matzah fu yayin amasik. And we say once the matzah is baked, it doesn't make a difference if you put yayin or put may peros or anything like that. So why should this be any difference? Why is this matzah shruya? If you soak it in wine, what's this business that you're ruining time? In other words, the matzah has tam matzah. And we always say once it's baked as matzah, it has tam matzah, it's kosher matzah, and you smear something on it that doesn't make it always matzah.
Why can't you say it's machlokas rishon? The previous thing he's saying it's zagas arrived pre-chodesh.
He didn't say that they argue. I thought he meant that they make the chiluk before and after.
Who? He says beforehand the nasa beiperes matzah. Then he brings out. He has a svora. Then he says, look at the hasagas arrived, and then look at the.
So I thought he meant that the hasagas arrived says that Tosefta. It says there's no problem with the tibul. It's talking after it's baked, so that shows you that there's no problem.
Yeah, so that's the rabbis. I mean,
he didn't say anyone argued. Let's see how he answers.
Yeah.
He says, "Im kain ma isyesh." What's wrong with soaking it in wine? Ach im ein ben kazayas beperum. If you don't have perum the size of a kazayas, it could be then you'll say yatsa b'taras pas. But he said that would be true even if it's soaked in filo and wine. So if it's soaked in wine, it must be you have perum of the size of a kazayas. So then what's wrong with soaking it in wine? And I ain't so he doesn't bring an approach to answer this. And he says, Shemafalpo, Umevi Kusha, Mehodim Akshinim B'Shas Kan Baflam Chesna Beis, Al Cholos Tod the Rakike Nazir. It says Lomoli Tamim Mevorm Sham. It says over there the problems, like let's say different reasons why you can't use those for matzah. Let's see, one reason it says because they weren't made l'shua, they weren't made l'shem matzah's mitzvah, they were made l'shem chalos toda. So it says different reasons in the Gemara why you can't use lachmi toda for matzah's mitzvah. So because some of the lachmi toda are matzah, right? So what, you can't use those. So it says. So the Shas asks, why do you need those reasons for? Typically, the Havli Matzah Shira, that the Chalos Tod, I think in the Kiki Matzah, I think there was Shemin in there. Right. So it's Matzah Shira. So that's why you can't. That should be a good enough reason that you can't use it for Matzah's Mitzvah Mashani. Revius Humas Chalakis. So I don't know what the Gemara is. I think the Gemara, we could look it up right now, but I think what the Gemara means is it's not enough Shemin over there to make a Matzah. Sure, it's a certain amount of Revius Halug, and it's divided by all the lechem, so it comes out each lechem has only a little bit thing. I'm going to look up the Gemara soon.
I think we said that earlier. I think that he brings up this issue earlier and says it wasn't that's why he gets the idea that a little bit is not a problem.
Yeah, I think so. But if it wasn't the fact that it was so little, Rikikin Hayamoshkanu so Achrach Afiyah. He says, yet the Gemara seems to say, if it wasn't for the fact that it was only a little shemen, it would be matzah shira, even though by the Rikiki Nazir, I guess by the Chalos Toda, the oil was in the whole mixture when it was, made into lechem. But by Rikiki Nazir, the oil was smeared on afterwards. And the Gemara seems to say that's matzah shira, if there would be enough oil, even though the oil was put on afterwards. I am enough as Lion Dalad, Raman Perigim, Maisa Kabbalah, was put on afterwards. In Cain, according to what he said before, lo havi le matzah shira, ela b'shemen meruba. So Ayin Shem. So who mentioned this? Who said this? Who asked this question? He says the Shara Melech. Right. So Ayin Shem shekasa da kushi mimlach mechalos tov de'ein chanami. The Gemara never meant to say the Rakiki matzah is a problem of matzah shira and there's only little oil, because even if it would be a lot of oil, that wouldn't be a problem because that was after the afiyah. The Gemara's conscience was only by chalos toda, what the shemen is in the whole process of making the lechem, and they asked why isn't that matzah shira, and they said there was only a little bit oil. Right? That's his terms. Okay, but that's a little bit doubtful because the Gemara was talking about both chalos toda and tiganez, and said the conscience was only from chalos toda. There's a little bit doubtful. The Efshalom or the chiluk, he says, could be there's a difference. Im hamatzos haim sonein, if the matzos after they're baked they're cold, the moshkin achakach, and you smear stuff on afterwards, lo, it's not matzah shira. There ain't a time nechem sochel kol kach, because the time doesn't go into the matzah so much. Abu kashaim roasting, but if they're very very hot, even the bolim, therefore they're bolei the shaman more, even if the shaman is put on afterwards. Still the matzah when it's hot is boleya. In kain afsha b'havalei matzah shira. Could be then it is matzah shira. The bolim harbe the nikir hatam. So now he's making a new yisod that maybe it's possible, but even if you put on the stuff afterwards, but if it's boleya a lot, like if it's hot, it's boleya a lot, then could be it is matzah shira, and that's what the Gemara meant. That if by the Rikike Nazir it would be a lot of shaman, there would be a problem with matzah shira. In the case, because it's smeared on when it's still hot. He says, I think, but I saw this chiluk, I'm not making it up, but I don't remember. So it says on the bottom, this is the chiluk the Shara Melech says, and it's so strange because he just quoted the Shara Melech. Right. But that's the kasha, so he didn't have the Shara Melech in front of him. He remembered the kasha, and he remembered the first shot that the Gemara was only asking. Chalos Toda not Rikika Nazir, and now he's saying
the second shot.
The second shot
is the pshat he likes better.
He forgot who said it, but he says on the bottom that the Shamal says that chilik also.
I'm bothered by something here. This Torah that says that it's only konim afiyah that's matzah shira, and after afiyah it's not matzah shira. That idea seems to be universally accepted. I mean, that's
what it seems to be, yeah.
But because the writer brings it from the Tosefta, So he's saying, because it's a Sosetta is talking about Tivla.
So I think the rabbi is just saying that there's a difference between before and after when you put this tavlin in.
But that's the right. In other words, that's the right of Pshat. And so what bothers me is he brings all these Rishonim. Didn't answer that question. He brought all these Rishonim that seem to have a problem with that, from the soaking in Mei Peros after the matzah was made, and he's not willing to accept that the problem is matzah shira because it's after the afiyah. Well, so, and the thing is that he's not willing to say that challenges the Sfar. He seems to say that's. I would think with all the Rishonim saying, with having the Rosh, he says the Rif, the Rambam, and the Rosh all saying that, it would, if it was only a Svara, I would say, well, you have a problem with your Svara. So, and unless you can actually show me a Meferish Gemara like that, then they obviously disagree with the Svara. But he doesn't say that. And it seems that Shar Melch also has that approach, because Shar Melch doesn't.
I thought in that paragraph, maybe I didn't look up the cases. I thought that paragraph that he quoted before, that it's a fact that there's no one that says it's after it's baked it's matzah shira, and he says in the Tosefta that he just bringing the Rabbi says clearly Tosefta was talking about the top when it was talking about after it was nefesh.
Right.
I guess he's the only one that brings it to Tosefta, and then he says the Prichadesh makes that different also. He says the Hazman, he says and tells us all this and stuff. So he never found anyone that says that there's such a thing as matzah shira afterwards, and that was his kasha and the Magen Avram with this business of being shora and yain. But once he says this last part of the Sharmel that he doesn't know who said it, but once he says that if the matzah is hot, it absorbs more,
right,
then you don't have really a kasha in the case of shura yain too. It could be when it's soaked in
right,
wine, it absorbs
right,
a lot more.
Right.
So then it's not a question of before and after; it's a question of how much it affects how much it's bolea. In other words, if it was there in the process, it gives a lot of time, and if it's put on afterwards, it doesn't really give time unless it's bolea a lot, and that's totally how much it's bolea, if it's hot or it's shri.
Right.
Okay, now he's going into another subject of not May Paris. Now he's going into the Indian of Shimur. I am Safim Daflam Chesna Beis, the Chalos Told the Rikike Nazir, Eina Yotzi Behem, and one of the reasons it gives is that the Ksi, because it says the Shmartem es HaMatzos, and we dash from the word of Shmartem es HaMatzah, Mishtameres Hashem Matzah, that you have to do the Shmira for the purpose of Matzah's mitzvah. Yotza, that excludes the case, Sheina Mishtameres Hashem Matzah, where you're not being Shomer for the mitzvah of Matzah. You're Shomer at those cases to be Lechmi Toda or to be Rikike Nazir, and therefore, in those cases where you were shomer that it shouldn't become chametz, you needed matzah for them, but you were shomer not for the matzah's mitzvah, you were shomer for the purpose of lachmei toda or kikei nazir, and that means you weren't shomer l'shem matzah's mitzvah, so it's no good. Upirish Rashi,
Rashi only be shomer for one thing.
That's the Rashi says. Upirish Rashi calls shimer shatam eshamr shalom tachmitz. When it comes to matzah's mitzvah, every shimer that you're being meshamr that it shouldn't become chametz is kavan. You have to have kavanah l'shem matzah shal mitzvah that it shouldn't become chametz because you want it for matzah of mitzvah. Yatzazu, but the case of Rikike Nazir and Lachmi Told are exceptions. Shalom ishtam l'shem matzah shal mitzvah pesach. They weren't being watched. They were being watched. They shouldn't become chametz. But that wasn't for the purpose of the matzah pesach. That was for the purpose of being matzah for lachmei toda or rikike nazir.
Is that the same? Like, do you have to watch it for the purpose of rikike nazir or for the purpose of lachmei toda, or can it be both?
Can you have shimmer for both? I don't think you can. I think you need shimmer for saying just for saying matzah's mitzvah. But we'll see if he says.
What do you think? Okay.
In came a vuer. So din of shmartas and matzahs, we learn out the pasuk that sarach shimur the small. In other words, l'shem matzahs mitzvah. V'hu gzeres hakasa kamo korbanos. Just like there's a din of l'shma, like certain korbanos you have to do it l'shma, and shalol shma is pasul. L'ksiv a get has to be written l'shma. L'chem avur kan and daf memol aleph. The b'tzekel shal nachrim when goyim have those, and it's talking that you know for sure they're not chametzik. It says, a person could fill himself up on those doughs on Pesach. He doesn't have to wear. It's not chametz, so there's nothing wrong in eating them. But he can't use those for matzah's mitzvah. He's allowed to eat it. It's not chametz, but they can't be used for matzah's mitzvahs because they weren't made the shame. There wasn't shmira shame matzah's mitzvah. So that's certainly talking about the Seika Shal Nachman that we know for sure they're not chametz, or else you wouldn't be able to eat it on Pesach. So it must be there for sure. We know they're not chametz. Ayin Shem Rashi Ram B'Rash. Ach B'Kol Makom. I guess they this. How do we know for sure it wasn't chametz? Maybe they give different kimtis, but L'maisa, everybody agrees that's what he says. The Cholashittas is talking. We know they weren't chametz stick. Ach B'Kol Makom. And Yotzi they chovas hamitzvah delon ishtaber l'shem matzahs mitzvah. So you see that he just bring another gemara. There's a special din of shimur l'shem matzahs mitzvah. V'chein b'chulan daf dalam and aleph. It says matzahs kusi. If a kusi has matzahs materas, you could eat it. B'yotzi they chavas the pesach, and you could be yotzi your chiyuv. U'maksha shas shita. Why not? It's pasha. The parish Rashi even the mutra lechol. If it's good, mehechi teisi lo yotzi. Therefore, why can't be yotzi? We're not afraid of chametz sticks, so why shouldn't be yotzi? Mataras. Ma'od atayim lo b'kiyul l'shim. That the gemara was going to kusim with Gary Emes. So in other words, you might have thought that even though it's not chametz stick, but they don't know to be shomer l'shem matzahs mitzvah. So you might have time a lo b'ki b'shimur. They don't know the din, or maybe they know it. They don't keep them. B'ki is mentioned. They don't know the din of shimur. Pirish Rashi after eno chametz mikol makol monish tamer l'shem matzahs mitzvah and yotzei. Mashmam we say the kusi are mashamer l'shem matzahs mitzvah. Before the hedges. So that's another gemara that you see that if we would know they're not mashamer l'shem matzahs mitzvah, you won't be able to use it, even though we know it's not chametz. Before the hedger, the matzah's mitzvah, gzeres hakasa, devoy shimur, l'shem l'shmo, which is l'shem matzah's mitzvah. Fine, but Rabbi Magad Khan perikei alachates kasa, the ein mevur beramim minyan shimur yesh eis achilik bein matzah shel mitzvah l'shar matzahs. He says Rambam, Strauss says matzah needs to be shimur. But it doesn't say by matzah's mitzvah. There's an inyan of shmo and not by other matzahs. Right? Achmed Akasa, Perik Chesme, Halacha, Gimel, he brings down, Misha, Ein Lo Ela Kazayas, Matzah, Meshemeres, he should use it for the, he says, what do you do, which, you do either the beginning of the Surah, the end of the Surah, but you see there's an inyan of the Matzah, Meshemeres for the mitzvah, V'cheinu Beritzo, Perik Arbe, Psachim, Him came Avur, the Ram Gam came, the Matzah, Sarach Shem, L'Shem Matzah's mitzvah. He says, even though the Ram never formally said it, the very fact that he speaks out, if you only have one k'vayas matzah, which is mishemeres, you use it, and he tells you how to use it. You use it for the bracha, you use it for the epikomen, right? So he discusses there's a mitzvah, there's an inyan of matzah mishemeres, which is very strange that the Rambam won't, say there's a din that it just mentions that agavurka over there. The Chaim Perik Level Alachates Chasar Rambam, the Chalos told Rukik and Nazar and Yotzebem at time to see Vishmartem as matzos Yotzezeh Shem Vishmeres El Shem Savach. Karabakan, I guess the Ram says the reason like Rabbi Ayin Shem. So we see that even though normally we would have thought the Ram would say something straight that matzah has to be made, the same matzah's mitzvah. Saying that even though the Ram doesn't say it outright, and he just mentions the mitzvah that all matzah has to have shimur, which implies that shimur that it shouldn't be chametz, right? But yet we see from these other Rambams that he said that there's an inyan of the matzah's mitzvah has to be mishumar. Especially, so he must have told the halacha, but it's still very, very strange. Why wouldn't he specify clearly in a direct fashion? That matzah has to have the matzah mitzvah has to have shimur with shem matzah.
What exactly does Rambam actually say by shimur? Because there seems to be two ideas in shimur.
One he's going to go into that now.
Okay.
Hinei ma'uzah shimur. What is considered shimur? And when does the shimur have to start from? So I am B'Shas Khan Mem Amun Aleph. The Rabbi Spirle shimur the lisha. If you start the shimur at the kneading process, when you mix the water into the dough, lav shimur. That's not good enough for shimur. The tzarach shimur kodem lisha. The shimur has to be before the actual lisha. The sover the Mishas Katsira. Be'inan shemur l'shma, the shmira has to start at the time of when you culture the wheat, you cut it. Mavur Sham, the Sover, the Shimer, Mitchilaso, Batsov. And it doesn't mean you just need Shimer at the time of the Ksira. It means it starts at the Ksira, and from then on until you actually make it into Matzah, all the processes require Shimer. But it starts Mishas Ksira. Levi Raya Sham, and he brings a Raya, Bipsekel Shal Nachim, Dana Yotzedecha Basal. You can't be Yotze with that, but Mambalo, Liavat Shimer, Mikoda, and Mafia. If you could do Shimer at any stage, why can't you do the Shimer before you bake it? Rabbi says must be you need the Shimer from the very beginning of the process. But Moradachi, the Hassan, Bid, and the Nachus Lashimur, Kigom B'Shas Lisha, Shanos Neimayim, B'Misa Lo Yolashim. He says that's not a good ride. Maybe you only need Shimer from the Lisha time, which is when you put in the water. And that's why these Besekas already have Lisha. So to say you're a shomer before the baking, then the water should get there. Maybe that's not a good Shimer. Maybe it's enough to have Shimer B'Shas Lisha.
And only then and then not afterwards.
No, the more meant then on and not before. As Rabbi said, you see from there you need it from the very beginning of the process, from Ksira. So he says, what's the right you need it from Ksira? You just see that Shimer at the end isn't good enough, but could be you only need it from Lisha on. Maybe you only need Shimer when it requires a special Shimer, like when you put in the water. Could go with Shas Lisha, Shanos Bisa, Lo Ayola Shimer, by the Beseka Shanachim. Aval Im, whereas it could be Mishur Shas Lisha Sagi. Filu Hachi, and even though the more slugs up Rabbi's Raya, well, how did Rabbi still stuck to the din? He said you slug the Mariah, but he still holds you need Shimer Mishas Ksira. But Rif Pasak Rabba, the Shimer the Lisha Lav Shmirahu, and you need Shmira the Ayin Ran, the Kodem Lisha Sarach Shimer. You need Shmira before the Lisha. Become Makom, the Ran says, Afshala Boy Mishas Ksira Rakla Mitzvah and Milcha, because there's a long time between the Ksira and the Lisha.
Right.
And it could be, who says, even though Rabbi said Mishas Ksira, maybe he only meant L'chatchila, but it could be as long as he has Shira and he held from before the Lisha and Shmir, but you don't know exactly from when, but maybe Mishas Ksira is too early and that's only L'chatchila. The Das Harash lifts up the Shemir the Lisha Havi Shira. He doesn't paskin like Rabbi, he paskin because the Gemara says Rabbi has no Raya. Right? Achla Mitzvah and a Mufchar, it's an Indian Slarach Shemir Kodem. Chaim Shem Shevi Deis was there, brings different Shitas and Rishonim. Chaim Batur, Chaim Simon Tav Samach, Ubeis Yosef Barichos, the different Shitas, when the halacha is when you need Shmira, but he's saying the Rosh holds Me'ikar Adin, you only need Shemur, which is Ma'akav Shemur from the time of the Lisha. Now he says, V'hinei, L'fiani slightly Poshet. Man the Sover, the Shimer, the Lisha, Lav Shimer, who you need some Shmir from before the Lisha, Xeris Akasva, the Shimer, Maskul, Kodam, Lisha, Nikol Makum, Bavali, Tzarach, Lishma, B'Shas Lisha. Don't think it's enough to be Shomer before the Lisha, and once you did that, let's say you hold Shas Ksir, don't think it's enough to do Shimer, Shas Ksir, from then on you're free. He says, it's a Pasha to him, it means from then on. Ki ain't Sfar, the Kodim Yitzarach Shimer. It's not mistaver that before you need Shemur, and afterwards you don't need Shemur. He requires Shemur even before it was brought to the water to have Lisha. Could go on either Mishas Ksira or Mishas Tchina. Someone holds that you don't need a Mishas Ksira, but once you grind up the wheat, you need a Shemur, but it wasn't connected to the water yet. It's the Ayim Viran. That's possible that you only need Shemur Mishas Tchina, because the more only proves that you need it from before the Lisha, right? He said, but he said, whenever the Shiur is, if it's from the Ksira or the Tchina, it means from then on. Calls man Sheyachal Hachmas, you need Shimer L'Shma. The Lisha, who Koshkin, certainly you need a B'Shas Lisha, because that's when the most dangerous part. That's when you're mamish mixing in the Iha Shimer Tzarech B'Yoser. The Oz Hashimer Tzarech B'Yoser Kivan Shabal of Mayim. That's when you're putting the water, and that's when you need the most. Him Kain Kol Asiya V'Asiya Miksira. If you hold it starts in Miksira B'Arafiya Tzarech Shimer L'Shma. Well, the man Desover the Ein Tzarech Shimer Kodim. One who holds it could start at Lisha. Xeris Akas Shas Lisha Maskal Hashimer V'Kodim Lazeh Einu L'Chlal HaMitzvah D'Shmartin. It doesn't mean just that the Lisha needs a Shmir. He says, as the Rabbi Pasha to him, Lisha V'Arafiyah, Dahainu Ha'aricha, when you, even before you bake it, you level off, you know, how it's going to be. You put it in, what's the word for Aricha in English? You set it up. Shulchan Aruch.
Yeah.
In other words, you shape it before you put it in the oven, right?
Yeah,
he says, Gam ken sarach shimur l'shmoa. Haklal, he doesn't prove it, he just says it's a davar pashat then. Haklal, the rule is, he says, kul ma'modim b'me'esh maskul l'shmir, whenever the Gemara, you hold the shmir starts, sarach lishmar l'sov. It doesn't mean at that point only, it means from then on. D'hainu achar afiyah, the lo yuchol lahachmitz od. Once you do the afiyah, then it can't become chametz anymore, because once it's baked, it can't become chametz. Even if water falls on it, you have shallow the brach, but you don't have a shallow of really becoming chametz. Rak heim l'chulakim is just, we find that the Gemara different shittas. Me'yem osay maschil zman hashir. When does the shimur have to start from? Uksas post consolving karava the hula kuva kodem alisha. That Rava holds that you need it before the alisha and it's makav, but how much before it's a shalom rishonim, what's makav, if it's ksiras makav or just china. Uksas post consolving, and other people like you said, the Rush holds milisha v'yelach. The mikra din, it's only makav from shmir from lisha. I am a tour of the Yisrael now. I'm Magad Avram Sham Bereisha Suman. Maybe the Lisha Varicha Vafia Osir Al Yadei Cherashot V'Katan. So that's a proof to him because they can't have shemar, they can't do it lishma, right? The Afilu Linko V'Matzos, even to put the holes in the matzos. Every process you do has to have, as long as it's before the Afiyah, from the Lisha on, has to have be done by a gadol. Called sarach kavan l'shma, because every process needs kavan l'shma. Ayin sham. The cholza near l'fiyani yospaiti pashi. So I don't think I'm saying any chidushim. I think everybody agrees with this, that when the shimur starts, from then on, any process you do, any procedure you do, has to have shimur.
Shimur is this idea of shimur l'shma.
He's going to go into the shimur l'shma, but go ahead.
No,
He's so far only said that shimur l'shma means shimur l'shem matzos mitzvah.
But it's also protecting it from becoming chametz.
Well, shimur itself, but that it shouldn't become chametz. But that's not shimur l'shma. You need a shmira that it shouldn't become chametz. Like you need that by lachri todo also. Whenever the Torah requires matzah, you have to make a shimur that it doesn't become chametz. But here, there's in addition to the shimur that it shouldn't become chametz, that shimur has to be that you want it matzah for the purpose of matzah's mitzvah. You don't want it to be chametz because you want it for matzah's mitzvah.
The shima that shouldn't become chametz
is definitely needed, but that's not. And he's
but
not.
When does that have to begin?
I don't think that there's a chilik. Whenever you need shima l'shma, whenever you need shima l'shma.
So like the case that he was doing with the.
So let's say you hold up shima l'shma starts with Elisha. Right, so you wouldn't need a shimur before Elisha, but I'm sure if you knew it became chametz, let's say in the harvest time or something like that, then you wouldn't be able to use it. But you wouldn't need a specific shimur for that.
Yeah, but you see, what's hitting me is that the betzek of a goy is mutter to eat. So that's obviously there's only shimur. If it's already in a dough form, then there's already a shimur. It wasn't shimur l'shma.
Right. You know it didn't become chametz, so there had to be some kind of
shimur. There had to be some kind of shimur. So it seems to me that there is a chilik between shimur and shimur l'shma, and that you can have someone being shomerit. So that's why I'm wondering whether there has to be some level of shimur by when it becomes chametz, especially let's say by it becomes flour or something like that, because there's a strong possibility. I guess even by the ksira, I mean, there's issues of shimur, and then there's other issues of shimur l'shma, and then I guess the other thing I'm wondering.
I don't know if you're right. I seem to remember. It could be questions of Rishonim. I think that if it wasn't a problem with the shma, it would be good enough. The Gemara gives simanim to check if something is chametz or not. I don't know if we know them nowadays, but the Gemara has simanim how you could, through observation, see if this when it says b'sekel shel nachim, I think over there the Rishonim discuss how do we know, because obviously the Gemara says we're talking about you could eat it, that's not chametz, right, but there's a problem with shma. So I think over there there's a question, how do we know it's not chametz? And I think either the Gemara says or some of the shittas say that there's certain simanim that we can tell that it's by observation that it's not chametz.
So it's no shimer.
So that's what I'm trying to tell you. I think there are some. I don't know if everybody agrees with that. I could look up, but I think there's some shittas that hold that shimur, not to be chametz, isn't necessary if you could tell, as long as you could tell it's not chametz. Right. Right. It's satisfactory. I'm not sure. Maybe there are people that hold you actually need shimur that it shouldn't become chametz besides the lishma part. Also, but could be that's the talia what the case of the sake of shel nachrim is, because that's the case where you have that it's not chametz, but it wasn't lishma.
But I guess it's also interesting by the like he says in the kuva, by making the holes. I mean that's a maisa. So it seems to be that the maisa of like when you do that maisa, this idea of shimur l'shma, is it? There's like I understand the shma that when you're making the matzah, it's got to be the shma. You know what I mean?
He's going to talk later if the shimur is in the maisa or at the time of the maisa. I think he's going to discuss when he discusses shimur l'shma, he's going to discuss what the shimur l'shma means.
What's getting me is this interesting. Like I can understand the shma.
In other words, can a cotton do let's say the cotton is doing the lisha, and I'm over there watching, and I have a kavana that this lisha should be l'shem atzis mitzvah. The cotton is doing it, he can't do it l'shma. Without the shiloh, it could be Yomel Gam was good enough, but it's a different shiloh. What is the idea of the shmir, let's say, b'shes? But first of all, I was besupik when he said before, let's say, it's from ksira, it means from then on, or if it's from lisha, it means from then on. Does he mean it's from then on, but he mentioned different processes you do from then on. Does he mean only at the time of those processes?
Yeah.
Or does he mean from then on, even without, or when you're not doing...
it's in the storeroom. You have it in the storeroom, it's totally hermetically sealed. And
you were toching the grains, right? You didn't mix it anything with yet or anything like that. You didn't do any lisha. Is that good enough? Do you need shimer l'shem matzah at that point, or does he mean any process you do? So I think it's going to be Nogaya when he says, when he discusses what the lishma is the lishma in the maisa, it's the lishma not in the maisa. I think we have to wait till it's
because that's the thing bothering me is it seems to be it seems to be over the whole time the shimur aspect. But I think I'm having a problem with this shimur. The fact is that like I can understand like the shma by a get. Got to start a get, so it's got to be told this is l'shem. This get. Okay, so now I know what to do that. But here it seems to be, I guess the whole ksiva, the Sefer perhaps has in mind through the whole ksiva that it's the shma in terms of, and so you just say it
for
before,
this person, for that person.
But throughout you have to have in mind that it's for the person. But the shima l'shma, it's like I'm watching it. It has to be the shma. I guess. What is it? I'm watching it to protect from it becoming chametz. It shouldn't
be chametz because I want to use it for matzah's mitzvah.
So it's a little bit more of a. It's not like that's I guess what's bothering me by that maisa thing. In other words, with the question you're saying about the lisha, I could see both sides. In other words, if you say is it like the maisa of lisha has to be lishma, or is it only someone agavorcha? I mean, even theoretically, a goy could do the lisha. If it's being watched over by someone to...
So he's going to discuss that later. Then I remember from the last one I learned that. I don't remember what he says, how he works it out, but I think that's going to be his big shot.
It's an interesting type of lishma. Like it's interesting lishma because it's a integrated lishma.
Okay. Yeah. He said pasha that means from that stage on. I said the Yinira, the hard the Gazra Torah the Tzarach Shimur Lishma. Hainu kol asiya an she'ein roy lahachmitz. He says clearly every asiya has to be lishma until it reaches a stage that it cannot possibly become chametz, which means until it's baked. Right?
He says with asiya, that seems to be an action.
Any process that you do to it, right?
Right.
Well, we'll see. Kigam la'achar asiya, until you actually bake it, the oz once it's baked, lo shayach shimur. You don't need any. It's not possible shimur. There ain't no royal lahachmas. It can't become chametz. So what are you being shomer? It's not shayach. Bim kain the shitas hasorim the shimer the lisha lav shemirahu. and they hold you need a shimur before lisha. Elo the sarach lishmor kodem lisha. Nehida kasapti l'mayla degam elu mod in degam b'shas lisha tzarach shmiri. So that's true. I said that it starts before lisha, but certainly the lisha needs shmir because it means from then on. Nikam makom dafke im yesh chashash chimetz b'shas lisha. He said you only need shimur if there's a problem. It might become chametz, but if it can't become chametz, then there's no idea of shimur. It's just like after it's baked, there's no idea of shimur because it can't become chametz. So if you're making a type of lisha which can't become chametz, you wouldn't need shimur. Why? He said, "Im kain dafkim yesh chashash chimetz b'shas lisha." That's when you need a shimur at the type of the lisha. So gafkin shimur. Av im lashvei peres. He says, let's say you're kneading with fruit juices, and according to the Rambam, fruit juices don't make a matzah shira, and it's not, and they're not machmitz. But that's a Ram shekasafti l'mayla the chutz mi'abos mashkin yotzin pesach. Except for those four types that make a matzah shira, other fruit juices are kosher. For havi lechem oni is considered not matzah shira, even with fruit juices, it's still considered lechem oni. He says, "B'chora ain't sarach shmir milisha v'yelach." What are you being washed with? It can't become chametz once you were using may Paris. So how did he do the shmira? What kind of shmira did you have? There's no shmira necessary. So he says, "When we call makom neskayim shmartem," you did fulfill shmira because you did the shmira before the lisha. The gazer atorah sheit sarach shmira l'shma kodem lisha ba'odan chitim o kamach, depending on the shas ksira, shas pchina. Ki einam lefurish b'torah be'ezas asiyah sarach shmira. So you see, he's going clearly that the shmira is done at the time of the asiyah. But if the leash isn't good enough, then you need either b'shas ksira or b'shas tchina. So that's before the whole May Paris business. So then you did a shmir. Ach pirshlo chazal but sarach shimer. The kamod alachra fiyah certainly ain't sarach shimer. Deno machmas. It can't become chametz. What are you being shomer? When we call makom the skaima a mitzvah kodem afiyah, but you were makayim the inyan of shmir from the fact that you were shomer before you baked it. It's possible that there's not going to be chametz anymore because you need it in fruit juices. And therefore there's no possible smear anymore. We call makom the skaima mitzvah shimer kodem lisha be'odel kemach ochitim. Be'oz I efsher shlo yezman she'ena bali day chimetz v'sarach shimer. I thought we learned the other time, we have to look over, didn't we learn that he said that even according to the Rambam, the May Paris aren't machmitz, but the whole case, there's a din, you could only use something which is royal hachmitz for matzah, and therefore you have to have a little water in there too to be, so it comes out when you do the lisha with May Paris, if you're not going to have any water whatsoever, it can't be machmitz, so you can't use it either for matzah, I thought we said. So he said, you always have to have May Paris with a little bit of water.
But that's also the shimur. Even if you're putting.
So then why can't you do what? So then why shouldn't that be shimur? But you have to be careful that.
Right. Even if you put, I would think even if you put in May Paris plain, it still needs shimur because maybe someone will drop in some water.
Yeah, maybe you'll mix it. I understand that. Maybe it's going to say.
I was just thinking. I was trying to look back over here.
You're just making it worse, and you are dealing with water. According to what he said before, even with May Paris, you have to have a little water because otherwise, if it's not roy lahachmitz at all, it's not roy for.
Right.
For a matzah.
But you're
saying even if you wouldn't need water, but still, why can't you have shmir that no water should come in? Because water would affect it.
Right.
Let's see what he's going to say. But he said you only need shimmer for lisha v'yelach, so you can't say you did the shimmer before the lisha. In kain kodem lisha ain't a b'chal mitzazu rak lisha v'yelach. In kain there should be osir lalush ha'matzos b'davar shena machmitz kilonis kaima mitzvah shimmer. You didn't do shimmer. So he's going, but if you do lisha with May Paris, there's no shimmer. That ain't tzarach shimmer because from lisha you don't need shimmer. The kodem is lagamkin lo tzarach. The em is gzeres akas of the tzarach shimmer. Al korchach ha'chiyuv, because there's a din of shimmer. Al korchach ha'chiyuv lalush dafke v'midi de machmitz kadei sheyiskayim mitzvah shimmer l'shma. So you need a midi de machmitz to be able to be yotze the union of shimmer. Kain near of Yana slightly the Losan Asobrim Bein and Shimur Kodam Lisha Sagi Bashir Kodam Lisha, because then there was a din of Shimur, you remember kind of it's a Shmir. Even if from the Lisha on you don't need Shiur, but as long as you had a Shiur which was required before. But if you hold the Shiur starts at the time of Lisha, then you're not going to be able to say you don't have Shiur.
This argument before, the fact is that it's saying that Shiur, the way I understood was that the Shiur is okay, but Shas Lisa, you just need it, but it doesn't mean, it's an extension that if you say you have to start the Shiur beforehand, then it has to continue on to the Lisha. So when does it start? But if you start it beforehand,
then you need a Shmira.
But why would that not still be a Shmira? There's a difference between a Chiyuv of Shmira or it's still a Shmira. In other words, he's making an additional argument.
He's saying the Torah says the Torah requires you to be Shomer them.
Right. So
the Shmira means Lishma.
And when does it have to begin by?
So if you hold, he says before Lisha, it has to begin before Lisha, either the Ksira or the Tzina, whatever process you hold.
But if you hold, but that's what I'm saying. When the Torah says is you hold, it has to begin at Lisha. Does that necessarily mean that before Lisha it's not a Shmira? Could you say
the Torah doesn't require it? I mean, the Torah only requires Shmira from Shas Lisha. It says the Shmarta Samansos, and he's saying the Torah is only saying you have to be Shomer from the time of Lisha. So there is no place where the Torah says to be Shomer before that. So why would you say there's any? So he's assuming that before that you're not doing anything.
But I can understand the Torah says you have a Shmira, but you can say that you have
even though you don't have to do it before that, but it's still called a Shmira.
Right. I mean, you can have.
It's not too historic. The Torah never says to do it, so why would it have a?
It has to be at least by Lisha. You know, that type of thing has to at least start at Lisha. I'm not saying Mustafa. I think there's another way of looking at that. But this thing that was also bothering me. I didn't quite understand that thing because I thought also maybe you had to put Mayim into it.
Maybe he's going to discuss it. Let's just finish it and see what he says because he might prepare it. So Nicha Divri Arama Sheves in the Mila, the Sover the Yotzin im Nilo Shemei Paris Lachud, Veinu Nikra Matzah Shira, Shakasha Olav Kushas and Ramban, and the Ramban asked the Kasha, Shahuba Sham Dir Masashu, Kiva the Eno Machmet, Imken Ech Niskayim Shmarta. So that was one of the Ramban's questions was, how are you Mekayim Shmira if it can't become Chametz? Well, Fima Shakasabta Lo Kasha, the Ramam Koy Beshitas Harif, Rabo, the sober, the Shiur is Kodem, you need Shmir before the Lisha, Beinin. The Shiur, the Lisha, Alav Shmirahu. And as he passes like Rava. I am Beramam Kan Perakei Alafates. In Kain is Kaim, the mitzvah Shiur, Kodem Lisha, the Yochel Lolu Shemei Paris, Abagav, Deino Machmas, and there's no Shiur at that time. Right? Luzelo Kasha, Kushal the Ramban Shek, so that answers the Ramban's Kasha and the Rambam. And he says also with this he could answer the Kasha of the Ramban Shek, Razor the Balamor, the Echash Farish below Mayim. He says, how could he say it was made Paris without water? The Haboy Shiur B'Shas Lisha V'Afiyah. And if there's no water, you won't need Shiur. With Amos L'das Arif Ein Sarach. You don't need water. And then when are you going to do Bishomer? But Dai B'Shmir is Shekodem Lisha, because the Shmir Kodem Lisha. I just agree with you. I don't understand that why even if it's what made Paris. But still, you need to have Shmir. The water shouldn't fall in.
Right.
And even after the Lisha, before water could fall in after the Lisha also. So why wouldn't that be Shmir?
Right.
So maybe
it doesn't make it. I mean, it's 9:24.
Okay.